teams feared us. We did not outplay. Teams actually outplayed us in the last years of Sir Alex.
Yeah.
Our midfield was been bad. Now, we get through it and entering Woodward with the Galactico era mindset. And he tries to buy everybody.
Trying to buy into his trophies.
Right? He tries to buy into his trophies. However, the summer where he was supposed to do that, what was David Moyes' first summer, he brought nobody onto the final day where he buys Fellaini from Everton. Right? 7 months in, Moyes gets sacked. Why won't Moyes get sacked? Because the players were already old. They were aging, they were old. Moyes needed to modernize the squad. But because we were defending champions, not knowing that we were defending champions because of Fergie, they thought it was about the players. Fergie just wheeled that team into the championship. But those players were already going down. Then you have fans' ego, myself included, right? Calling for his head. Now I know better. The club everything was already wrong. Now, fast forward, you get LVG comes in and he was the first guy to try to modernize the club and get the club playing possession soccer. Now, at the time, possession soccer for me and as well as majority of Man United fans was almost like a pointless exercise because he just kept the ball to keep the ball. We'd win a lot of games 1-0 and they'd keep the ball from 68 minutes to the end of the game and we'll just keep the ball. So we win the game 1-0, 3 shots on target, 68% possession. It's kind of boring. We grew up on verticality, United counter-attacking, putting you under pressure consistently. So that mindset, we were almost like spoiled kids and brats about that. And once again, myself included, right? So we move on. After LVG, he wins the FA Cup against Crystal Palace with a man down. Jesse Lingard scores the winner, gets fired. Pep signs for City, which by the way is a completely different story because if you read Sir Alex's book, he had the dinner with Pep in New York, wanting to get Pep into Old Trafford, but Pep asked for Tixi Berkistan to become DUF. The Glazers say, we don't use the DUF model here. The manager does everything, so we're not going to get Tixi. City sees that they did that, get Tixi Berkistan, Pep joins Man City. So, quick, there's more to that, but that's just a summary. Now, Pep joins Man City, Glazers panic, react, sign Mourinho. Mourinho tells us that Rashford, Lingard, Martial, Luke Shaw were not fit for purpose. With the exception of Luke Shaw, who has 1 billion lives. The rest of those players, gone, right? Now, you have Mourinho does his best. Till today, he claims that his second position with Man United is the greatest achievement of his career. This is the coach who's won the treble twice, right? Now, he gets fired because of the role with Pogba. This is the rise of Player FC. Picked up, it was maximized at Pogba. Player FC started, which I've never been a fan of Player FC. I will never be a fan of Player FC. I will not support a single player over the club, ever. It's not going to happen now. It's never going to happen. If they sold Menu tomorrow, I will be sad, but we move on. I'm so glad they got rid of Garnacho. Hopefully they can bin Freedom Fighter very soon. They bin them and they send them. Yeah, bin them and send Freedom Fighter. Send the Freedom Fighter out of here. Now, moving on, Oli comes in and Oli actually built something.
Oli was the best after Fergie.
In terms of playing United direct. You forget he went, 20...
You guys made progress.
I think he went away... It went unbeaten away from home for like 21 games, which is equivalent of a season, of just over a season, because you played.
They had that team playing.
Right,
the defense was working.
And if you remember, all this football was very easy. It's very simple. That time when we won 21 games away from home, the games that we obviously lost were at home. Why? Because at home you attack, you get after them, you press, you push, you try to win the game, and then you concede the goal. But we could forgive it because our intent on attacking was very clear. So, okay, we got unlucky, we lost the game, it was easy to forgive. And then away from home, it's set up in the 4-2-3-1, Pogba, Matic, or McFred, whatever I decided to use, and then we'll rely on moments. One counter-attack, one moment of brilliance from Pogba or Greenwood or Martial or Rashford, and we'll get a draw, get a win, something. Ended up second or third, I believe. Okay, third. So So he was doing something, and then the Glazers strike again for commercial reasons, sign Ronaldo.
Well,
I'm telling you, Ineos would not make that decision because Ineos actually have a footballing philosophy. So the overarching picture I'm trying to paint here is that the Glazers are solely responsible for the lack of footballing direction at Man United.
I get
for
that,
the
but
past
you see,
20
you have Ronaldo signed. You added Ronaldo, you didn't lose anybody. So my question to you is, Ronaldo didn't make the team worse. I don't think Ronaldo made Ole's team worse.
No. So if you signed Ronaldo, then you needed to get better midfielders to help Bruno and that can run in midfield to negate Ronaldo having to do all that
Martial
extra
wasn't
work.
running anyway.
Martial was not a runner. I think you're not getting the point I'm trying to
Okay.
make. If you get Ronaldo, you can't play Ronaldo in the same team as other non-runners.
Yeah,
Yes, but who else do you put on? We had Cavani in the same team. We had Ronaldo in that team.
I get what you're saying. Hear me out.
Right?
You already had all those players.
Yes.
You added Ronaldo.
Yes.
You already knew that when Martial and Rashford were playing together,
Yes.
two of them were not running.
Yeah,
if you remove one, you put one, it's still the same situation. You still shout shots too.
Yes. However, those ones, they did a lot of ball carrying.
Unlike Ronaldo, he just wants to put it
Ronaldo was just in the box.
Yeah.
So when you brought those guys, you bring them close by. You didn't need them to run and press and all of that.
But they were
you needed
transition.
to find them so you can transition. So it was easy to get from back to front. Ronaldo wasn't transitioning.
You have to play to him.
So we had to play to him. So if you were going to sign Ronaldo, you needed to reach through
cover him up.
the team to cover him up, which we didn't have. So he completely unbalanced the squad.
Well, you couldn't drop him.
And then you can't
drop
him. Nothing not too big of a He delivered goals.
You can't drop him because he's too big of a character. Because of obviously the media and everything. I think he scored the highest goal since
20
goals.
Fergie left. Yeah, there was
since Fergie.
Zlatan.
Since Zlatan. After all the strikers you've signed, Ronaldo. Yes. The one that scored 20.
Mm-hmm.
Him and somebody else that scored the only two strikers.
Yeah.
Him and Zlatan. Can you imagine? But the thing with the whole Ole thing is that we could see the progress was clear.
But then they stunted the progress by signing Ronaldo. They completely
and then they made it worse by firing Solskjaer.
Then they made it worse by firing Solskjaer, enter Ten Hag. And then what? So now this is where I really blame the hierarchy pre-Ineos for their complete lack and stupidity on understanding of football.
Very reactionary.
Extremely reactionary. It was so they had no plan.
Word.
They had no plan. It was so stupid. You signed Ten Hag. Why? Because of what he did with Ajax. You see the profile of the Ajax team and how he built them. Ball playing goalkeeper, ball playing defenders, press resistant central midfielders, crash late running attacking midfielders, high explosive wingers with a central forward. You know your team do not have that. You do not give him exactly what he wants early in the transfer window. One of the biggest issues with the Glazers was they did everything so late.
I don't know what they were trying to achieve. That Anthony thing was crazy to me.
It was so late. So in May of that year, you scouted Jurrien Timber. You scouted Timber. You scouted the centre back partner, Lisandro. You scouted Lisandro. I think Gabriel
was the year before.
You wanted to sign him, but then they didn't complete the process, and then Astar just jumped in there and took him. Right? So the scout had always done their jobs for United. So you scouted Timber, you scouted Lisandro, and you scouted Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Ajax told you that for all three, you could get all three for 87 or 89 million pounds. All three. Leave it to the Glazers. You know what? No. We're going to do some Glazonomics here. We will wait to when Ajax don't want to sell anymore. We will now come back. We will now get one player for 45 million in Lisandro. Then you get the other player for 80 million in Anthony, where you could have gotten two of them for less than 70. Glazonomics. They complete the most ridiculous, just complete stupidity. Okay, Ten Hag had his faults, but for everything that he did, he tried to find a way to win matches.
Ten Hag is opposite of Amorim.
Ten Hag was completely pragmatic.
His problem. So that was his problem.
That was his problem. I thought Ten Hag should have been I'm staying in this 4-3. We're going to get this profile of players and then we ball.
That's what Ruben is doing.
And that's what Ruben is doing.
Ten Hag's problem was I never let anybody that was available with the amount of injuries.
All right, we'll fix it. We'll put it in and we'll do something.
Amorim is all of you are playing this 3-4-3. It doesn't work.
We're going to play in here and we die here.
And they're dying right now.
So now enter Ineos. And this is going to be a very unpopular take. But you know, I've told you this. I'm a fan
of
Ineos, because what they would do is how you completely retool an organization. It's not even about business. I mean, it is about business too. However, this is how you retool an organization. First, you streamline the workforce. Why do teams like Man City that's a high performing, Arsenal high performing, Liverpool high performing, Brighton the best run club in the Premier League, and Brentford and all those guys? Why do they have small workforces? 300 people, 400 people, right? Why? Because decision making needs to be quick. If you need to do things need to happen from this guy to this guy, from that guy to the boss, decision gets made.
Go.
United had over 1,000 employees. Why? So yes, maybe we're not going to have 300 employees because we're that big. But 1,000 employees when the average is about 450 employees per club. So let's assume you go the average and a half. So 450 employees plus 225. That'll give you 675.
Yeah.
Right? So 675 is definitely smaller than 1,000.
Yeah.
So just streamline. So, but you know the media and everybody, people are losing their jobs, losing this and that. It had to happen. It had to happen. It's unfortunate.
Arsenal did it.
Exactly. It had to happen. It's unfortunate. And this is when, not to banter clubs and all of that stuff, but it's not news when other clubs do it because other clubs are not Man United. So I'm not trying to call Chelsea small for doing it. I'm trying to call Arsenal small for doing it. I'm not trying to call Liverpool small for doing it. I'm just saying Man United is different gravy. That's just what it is. Everybody's interested. That's all I'm saying. So they've done that first part, and then they made some mistakes in real time. And what I really loved was that they made those mistakes, owned it, and fixed it. First case scenario, Dan Ashworth. They tried to get Dan Ashworth. They did everything. They got him. The minute Ten Hag was gone, they asked him who should they hire, and they mentioned, say with me, Graham Potter.
Oh, yes.
As soon as they mentioned Graham Potter, Sir Jim just opened the door. You're out. Close the door right behind them.
Potter, that's true.
Out, right? So when you make a mistake like that, they've owned up to the mistakes. So I'm not asking for perfection. I want them. Even the great Florentino Perez, he talked about the mistake he made with signing Hazard.
True.
But then he said it's a mistake that had to happen because he didn't know how it was going to turn. What if Hazard became a world beater?
Yeah.
Right? So it is that's how it is. Now you cut costs and then you try to sign players for the club, not the philosophy. So now let's not get to the footballing part because Ineos actually care about the footballing part. If we play the 4-3, all the players that Amorim has signed so far will play in the 4-3.
Yes.
If you play the 3-4-3, those players will play in the 3-4-3.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you sign the manager the profile players he wants before anybody starts complaining, right? Because if you say you got rid of Ugarte, you got rid of Kase, you got rid of Dalot, which he needs to go to.
Kase was an L sign, if you ask me.
Yes, of course, because the Glazers spent all summer long because of Ten Hag chasing Frankie De Jong. Ineos have competent people. They would have looked at the deal. Look at what Ineos do right now. They don't even go to the club. They get the agreement with the player first. Then they go to the club. The only time it didn't work this summer was for Baliba, because Brighton refused. So these guys were completely incompetent. They agreed that 80 million euro or pound deal with Barcelona,
but Frankie didn't
want to leave. But if you had agreed the deal, tried to agree the deal with Frankie, and Frankie categorically told you no, then you can just walk away and let the manager know, hey, Frankie, under no circumstances doesn't want to come. Let's find somebody else. Now you have time to actually scout players, and then you don't start doing a panic by trying to sign Casemiro. How can your manager ask for a press-resistant midfielder and then you sign Casemiro? Not saying Onk isn't good. Onk is really good. And Onk actually helped us win titles or cups. Titles are reserved for Champions League and Premier League, so cups, right? So you don't want you go from a press-resistant midfielder to Casemiro. That completely changes the tactical plan and how you want to play. Then you try to play out from the back in the first 2 games of the season and you get clobbered. So you go to a pragmatic 4-3 with the counter-attack in long diagonals. Then you try to improve upon that the following season.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're gonna say, I was just thinking was it Solskjaer that signed Maguire?
Yeah.
That was Maguire's
80 million.
Maguire didn't become really that bad until...
Yeah, because it makes sense why Maguire became bad. Why? Because Solskjaer played in a compact mid to low block. so he didn't have to cover that much
Maguire's
ground,
strengths was it?
which is Maguire's strength. You
Then
put
Ten
two
Hag comes
and wants to push everybody up. Maguire can't handle that, so he made a lot of errors. So it makes sense. But funny enough, now Maguire's handling it.
yeah, because I mean, he had 3 years to learn.
Exactly. So the learning process is also a big part of this entire thing that fans don't really think about. Like I've always been of the opinion that majority of Man United fans are gamblers who lose a lot of bets.
I think people are just emotional.
It's the whole microwave mentality. Everything needs to be now, no time to build anything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you forget that Klopp built for 5 years. Arteta built for 5 years.
Yes,
Pep spent a bunch of money and still needed 2 years. And this is on a team that had already won the title a couple
With
years
Mancini.
before he got there. Pellegrini,
Yeah.
before Pep. So they had already won the title.
And then Pep comes in and then Pep
And
gets
then
all
Pep
the
comes
players
in and then
wants.
gets all the players he wants.
Because
And then he gets the
He
job done.
becomes dominant.
And so all I'm trying to say is this. I'd actually